Hello, students, and welcome to the YouTube channel of Get Set Law by IMS. I'm your verbal ability mentor, Sanjana ma'am, and today let's decode another editorial. For the ones who are new to the channel, I've already, recorded so many editorial decoding sessions before, so you can definitely go through those editorials also. They all comprise different genres, so it would be very helpful for you if you go and draw some insights from those discussions as well. And let's take a look at what takeaways we're going to have from today's editorial. As is always the case, we're going to look at the most important ideas, although I can say much of what today's article comprises is quite self-explanatory. There's not much of racking your brains that is required for this particular editorial, but I also felt that in recent times this is also something that warrants or merits discussion today. Okay, then again, we're going to learn a lot of new words today, that is for sure. And however, for this particular passage, we don't really have to skim much because this is very informative and this is definitely helpful for students preparing for law entrance exams as well. So let's take a look at today's editorial. And this editorial actually discusses the recent American Venezuelan actions, which are nothing but in flagrant contravention of international law. So the attack by the United States on Venezuela and the capture of the Venezuelan president, Maduro, is yet another gigantic affront. Affront means what? Affront is disrespect, okay, an insult to international law, right? Even though Maduro's practices were inherently authoritarian, but regardless of that, this actually comprises, categorically speaking, an affront to international law. Okay, so this adventure comes on the heels of a series of illegal American strikes. Now, this part you don't have to read so much because ultimately here the author wants to discuss in what ways international laws have been violated by the US flagrantly at that. So the author here says it is axiomatic. So the word axiomatic, and I'm just going to highlight the number of new words we're going to learn today. So one is affront, which is insult, and axiomatic is something which is so obvious that it needs or it bears no repetition. Okay, so it's already known that Article 2(4) of the United Nations Charter prescribes. To prescribe means to forbid something by law, the use of force in international relations. The UN Charter, okay, outlawed war and fundamentally reshaped international law, making war an illegitimate instrument for settling disputes. So war, simply put, as far as the UN Charter is concerned, as far as Article 2 is concerned, is illegitimate. It's illegal. However, at the same time, this particular article also mentions or prescribes two narrow exceptions, but the exceptions are narrow nonetheless. What are the exceptions? Force may be used. So force is allowed, however, in exceptional scenarios. One is when you have to apply it in self-defense, and the other is when you apply it with the authorization of the UN Security Council. However, in the concerning case, none is present, which means it is in stark violation of international law. Okay. Now, legal scholars have argued that the prohibition on the use of force is the most constraining, something that restricts, constraining aspect of international law. Another word we're going to learn today, and this is really important, hegemonic. Hegemonic is when one state, simply put, in politics, wants to assert dominance over the other states or nations or countries. Okay, so hegemonic states such as the US. So the author here very brazenly labels US as a hegemonic state, which might be true in the current circumstances. We'll get to learn more about that when we read the entire article, right? So hegemonic states such as the US have constantly sought to overcome this constraint by adopting innovative solutions, or let's just say by looking for new grounds, new categorizations, that this is the reason why we resorted to waging a war, so including the broadening of the concept of self-defense. Okay, so this is essentially what the US sought to do. Okay, arguably self-defense is not just limited to repelling an ongoing armed attack, which is obviously the case, but it also encompasses preemptive and anticipatory self-defense to combat cross-border terrorism. Okay, another very important term here is preemptive, which means to forestall, which essentially means to stop something which is, sure to happen, to stop something from happening. Okay, so another, categorization of self-defense is not just because we want to oppose a pending war, an impending war. And the other categorization is that we also want to forestall something which is, about to happen. Okay, moreover, the use of force has also been invoked to justify humanitarian invention. So, this particular paragraph here, the author talks about how, according to a lot of legal scholars, these categorizations, these narrow exceptions that we have to Article 2 of the UN Charter, right? These narrow exceptions are also being broadened by these hegemonic states. Okay, now, in this particular Venezuelan case, the US appears to have surpassed even these categories, right? And it is trying to identify new grounds for the use of force, right? So, the US officials are stating that this cross border operation was done as part of a law enforcement measure, which actually is not coming within the ambit of these two narrow exceptions. Okay, and according to this law enforcement measure, the purpose is to bring the accused criminals such as Mr. Maduro and his wife to face trial in the US. Some other reasons have also been offered, okay? One of which is the president, Mr. Maduro, was waging a ceaseless campaign of violence and subversion against the US and posed a threat to the entire region. However, again, I always repeat this in every editorial video of mine. Whenever we have transition words such as yet, but, however, always pay attention to this. However, none of these reasons that the US has, very innovatively tried to, include as its line of defense, it doesn't pass muster. It's not satisfactory enough. So to pass muster means something is not satisfactory enough. It's not acceptable enough. It still does not legally justify the US using force against a sovereign state. So far we have learned afferent, axiomatic, hegemonic, preemptive, passing muster. It's an idiomatic expression. Okay. Now, let's also read further leaders and immunity. Now, some bit of the information here I am actively skimming because I don't think so we have to read it. It's nothing but an extension of the information I'm already discussing. But if you want, you can definitely read that part as well. So, the other legal issue. So, here the author is essentially mentioning several issues which are acting as afferent to international law here. Okay. The flagrant violation of international law. So the other legal issue this case has thrown up is the treatment of President Maduro. Okay, so what is so peculiar about this? So as the International Court of Justice held in the arrest warrant case, heads of state, okay, the topmost leaders of a state, they enjoy inviolability and immunity. Okay, so this is supreme. This has to be there from the criminal jurisdiction of a foreign court. So the law is already set that a head of a state, they enjoy immunity from criminal jurisdiction of a foreign court. So, in such a situation, the US courts actually lack the jurisdiction to, perform the acts of violence which they had so, blatantly performed. Okay, so the US courts lack jurisdiction to try precedent for the alleged criminal activities. Now, the argument that Mr. Maduro is not the legitimate president of Venezuela because he came to office through rigged elections. Now, this is another story for which you need to do your own research because, we have so many articles on this piece of news these days. So it's important you actually go through them. It's really important from international law perspective that the US does not recognize Mr. Maduro as a legitimate president. It cuts no ice under international law. Again, we have another idiomatic expression, cuts no ice. It cuts no ice under international law. So it does not really still make sense. I'm not able to get influenced by it, is what this implies. Irrespective of how someone came to office, under international law, one thing is set in stone, which is what matters is the test of effective control. Right? So the Maduro administration exercise effective control. So many different elements of international law this article is actually going to teach you, which is what I really like about it because it's just so informative. Okay, so the test of effective control, and under that, the Maduro administration exercise effective control over Venezuelan territory. So thus, president as a head is entitled to personal immunity and inviolability under international law. Because if you do so, which is just go ahead and, keep on resorting to violence, holding otherwise would give states a license to stop recognizing regimes or heads of state. So this can be the destructive consequence of it, right? If they do not consider lawful using the subjective criteria, thereby denying them immunity, which would wreak havoc in the international legal system, right? Even forcibly taking the custody of a foreigner, let alone a head of a state, on foreign land without that state's consent or without a legal procedure and physically bringing the person to face trial is an internationally wrongful act. So, what the US here has attempted to do is wrong in every aspect, right? So, the US endeavoring to run Venezuela, which is reminiscent of naked imperialism. So, this is a term coined by the author here, which is really profound, is also unlawful as it amounts to undue interference in Venezuela's internal affairs. All right. So, strengthening international law, which actually means the author here is trying to, you know, talk about how there is a need, there is a scope, greater scope, and very urgent at that, given this situation, that we have to strengthen international law. The international law in the face of these events, it just seems to be very weakened here, right? Attenuation is another word for it. So the US's actions create a precarious is dangerous precedent. It's not really setting a very great or inspirational benchmark here. It is the part of a series of flagrant, I know I did repeat this term very often. It is a part of a series of flagrant violations of cardinal rules of international law, including the use of force that have been observed in recent years. So the larger question is, do we really have to change the content of the international law? According to the author, and he does cite another international law scholar. So, according to him, the content is not really the problem as much as the country's will to comply with the elements is. Okay. So, there is a lack of commitment to comply with it on the part of the nations. And we know that today the world is characterized by a meteoric rise of authoritarian regimes, including countries that were once regarded as the ultimate protectors, the vanguards of liberal democracy. And it means that the governments do not want to be constrained by any law, not even international law. Okay, so the weakening of the domestic rule of law has negatively impacted the efficacy of international law. Thus, to strengthen the international rule of law, one must bolster or strengthen the domestic rule of law and democracy, is what ultimately the author suggests here to sort of tackle the issue. Okay, that powerful nations use international law as an instrument to perpetuate the dominance. Nevertheless, it's equally undeniable that several elements of international law are antithetical to authoritarianism. This article that we discussed in was such example of it. Okay, so authoritarian regimes will continue to assault these norms and treat international law with utter derision. The new word is derision, which is, viewing something or somebody with contempt, looking down on it or looking down on somebody. So therefore, it is incumbent and really important on the democratic forces to come together to resist them with renewed resolve. Okay, so really, like, this is such an informative, editorial piece. I would suggest you go through the entire passage properly here. Go through it slowly because there's a lot of information here. Multiple elements of international law have been discussed. Different articles have been discussed. So several grounds on why the US here is actually to blame has also been discussed. So that was it about this editorial. The main idea is quite clear. These actions are just not justified, and it's just amounting to a blatant and a flagrant, misuse of international laws, and it is in stark contravention of the international laws, right? So that's the main idea, the backdrop of the information here. I hope you liked the video, and if you have any suggestions or any comments to drop, please do so in the comment section. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.